I'd like to thank Brilliant for making this video possible.
Hi, welcome to Astro Journey UK. In today's video I'm going to be talking about a relatively new feature in PixInsight called Spectrophotometric colour calibration, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's very easy to use. So I'll talk a bit about different colour calibration tools within PixInsight and what makes spectrophotometric colour calibration, or SPCC, that much better. So if you're interested in finding out how to get the best out of colour calibration, then keep watching.
When looking into the information for this video, I looked through PixInsight's documentation, various forums and things like that, to get as accurate a view as possible in terms of the understanding and the operation of SPCC, how to set it up and what you should be doing when you're using it. But in reading this, some of the stuff that made me realise quite how technical their documentation is. So one of the areas was when I was flicking through the documentation on PixInsight's website, came down to a section on the database itself, which you don't really need to have an understanding of the database. It's not critical. So XPSD format is similar to the EXIF image format in the way it stores and organises metadata. For example, both formats use XML file headers to guarantee flexibility and extensibility in the metadata serialization. XPSD file provides fast multi-threaded access to point source data with special quad tree based index searches to perform search operations on arbitrary regions and celestial spheres. I think the point here is when we're trying to learn these tools, there's a lot to learn in PixInsight, and PixInsight's a challenging tool at the best of times. I think the nice thing would be for some of this, what I would say is developer-centric documentation, to not be part of the general user guide, because I think it makes it difficult to find the wood for the trees. Anyway, I'm kind of digressing as well, so I'm just as bad. The idea is I'm going to be cutting through all of that and providing you with the exact things that you actually want to know about. So over into PixInsight, I've opened up here the three different colour calibration tools. So going from left to right, there's the path of evolution essentially. So the original colour calibration, which was very simple to use, didn't require plate solving, photometric colour calibration, and then spectrophotometric colour calibration. So I just wanted to talk briefly about the different sort of approaches here, and then you'll understand sort of why SPCC is better. So colour calibration, for example, uses a statistical approach for balancing colours by assuming that the average colour of the entire image, or portion selected by the user, should be neutral grey. On the other hand, photometric colour calibration uses a database of star colours and magnitudes to calibrate the colour balance of the image based on the colours of the stars in the image themselves. Photometric colour calibration and spectro colour calibration provide background neutralisation, whereas colour calibration didn't, and you would have to have that as an additional step. Just switching here to an example image of Andromeda here. In order to use colour calibration, you would need to set a couple of sort of previews. So you would create a preview over a white reference point, so a star, and then also you'd create another preview over an area where you would know is the background, and then you'd have to select them in here. And then dragging the triangle onto there, you then do the colour calibration. So this one's works differently. You don't need to do any previews or anything like that. As long as this image is plate solved, you can essentially just drag the triangle onto the image. It will call out to Vizier website, get all of the star information from the plate solved image, and then colour calibrate based off of that star data. I did sort of cheat a bit here. I haven't actually selected a background preview of interest here, but you would essentially do the same thing there. So if we just stretch this, then that's this image calibrated. So to do this properly, you should select a region of interest, and you should select an area which is the background, which would be preview 2. However, that's kind of a demonstration of that, just to show the differences in terms of ease of use of these two different mechanisms. So in terms of the performance differences between colour calibration and photometric colour calibration, CC can struggle with images that have a strong colour cast, or where there aren't enough neutral areas to balance the colours correctly. Whereas photometric colour calibration can be more effective in these cases, since it's actually using the inherent colours of the stars, which should be relatively consistent regardless of the colour balance of the overall image. So we're now going to move on to just focusing on SPCC, and we're going to put these other two things away now. So this is going to be the area of focus. So SPCC is basically a step change and improvement from photometric colour calibration, in that it's containing data from the Gaia Space Observatory, specifically blue photometer and red photometer data for more than 219 million point sources. This is the first massive and accurate spectrophotometric catalogue in the history of astronomy, so it's fantastic that PixInsight is able to benefit from this data. So the new SPCC tool implements colour calibration by reproducing the exact characteristics of the equipment that we're using to acquire the images in the first place: the same filter transmission curves, the same sensor quantum efficiency curves, and the precise spectra of the selected white reference points. So put simply, SPCC can outperform photometric colour calibration by about a 400% increase in precision, and you can see this from documentation in PixInsight. It shows you the calibration information and how they've actually provided that data. You do still need to plate solve with this particular feature in order to be able to map onto that Gaia star database. So if you're stacking within PixInsight, then that's fine, because with weighted batch preprocessing, part of the process of doing that will actually plate solve the image, so that's all good. If you're not using PixInsight for stacking, then in my opinion you should be. It's definitely one of the best, if not the best, from an overall quality of output. However, it's not the fastest, so yeah, if you're really bothered about speed then over quality, then yeah, PixInsight isn't really the one for you. However, if you're spending hours doing imaging in the first place, then you probably want to get the best out you can. If you're not using this and you don't have plate solved images, then go to Script Image Analysis, down to Image Solver. You'll have to run through, select which your target is in here. That will provide the right ascension declination coordinates, provide the time and date that you took this on approximately, and then you need to provide the focal length or the resolution and the pixel size, and then it will go away and plate solve the image for you and then put that into the actual image itself. You can then save that image. If you save it, say, a FIT or really an EXIF file, it's going to retain that plate solve information as well, so you've got that whenever you need it. As this video has been a pretty technical one, I think now is the right time to mention today's sponsor of this video, Brilliant.org. So this video just mentioned is a pretty technical video, and the fact that you're actually watching this video kind of implies that you don't really want to read and look at textbooks in order to be able to understand things. And that's where Brilliant.org is a fantastic website which I would love to recommend to you. Brilliant is super easy to get started with, and you can select from a range of subjects and levels which suit you. The great thing about Brilliant is its interactive nature. So as you're working through various modules, learning about that particular area, it will also give you activities to solidify that understanding, which I personally found great. If you're interested in trying this, then you can get a free 30-day trial today by heading to brilliant.org/AstroJourneyUK. And the first 200 of you will get 20% off Brilliant's annual subscription. So don't waste any time, give it a try today. So let's assume that you haven't set this up at all. What do you need to do to get things set up? First things first, you're going to need to download the Gaia database from PixInsight's website. So in order to go there, there's a link in here which is the pixinsight.com/dist. You'll need to log in. If you've got PixInsight already, then you're going to have a login, that's not a problem. And then what you need to do is come down to the XPSD database files. So you've got the Gaia DR3/SP complete set and small set. So just a brief thing around this. So the small set contains 4 database files with 34 million stars. This dataset requires 11 gigabytes of disk storage, and this is sufficient for a majority of sort of wide field and moderate field images. Essentially, if you're an amateur astrophotographer, this is going to be enough. If you're doing things more seriously and you want the full data set of 219 million stars, then you can download the complete set, which is 63 gig. However, yeah, I'm not going to use that. I've been using the small set. I think that's just going to be fine. Just a word to note that if you do download both of these, don't add them both into PixInsight. You need to choose one or the other. You could get some odd calibration issues. Go to small data set, just right click, download linked file. Do that for all 4 of these files, and then you'll need to store those in a known location. So I've already downloaded these, so I'm not going to wait for that to finish downloading. So what we need to do is go back over to PixInsight to add these files. I'd also recommend that you put them somewhere that makes sense. So maybe a user folder on your Windows machine or your Mac machine. Maybe create a PixInsight folder or something like that. However, to add these, you need to come down to Processes, Global, and Gaia. And we want to hit the little spanner or wrench icon there. Make sure the data release is Gaia dr3/sp. Hit select. Navigate to the folder, and then you want to select all of these files. Click on open, and then they're there. Click OK, and then you're done. You're good to go. So that's all of the data downloaded and ready to go. So now we're on to actually using the script itself. So what I need to do first is just load an image again. And here we go, we've got our image of Andromeda from earlier on. I want to go up to Processes, Color Calibration, and Spectrophotometric Color Calibration. So there's a lot of settings in here, and it might feel a bit daunting when you first come into it, but a lot of it is actually fairly similar. So there's a lot of similarities between this and photometric color calibration. Things like catalog search, background neutralization, etc. The difference between this really is that actually you need to specify the camera and filter sensitivities and things like that. So I've got a one-shot color camera image here, and that's what I'm going to be talking through in this particular tutorial. If you've got a monochrome camera, the process is slightly different. And also if you're using narrowband filters, the process is slightly different, and you would need to specify the specific wavelengths and bandwidths of your narrowband filters and which one is red, green and blue. But what I'm going to do is just talk you through these different items and what they actually mean. So we're starting off with the white reference. The default value here is average spiral galaxy, and there's lots of other options in here. And fundamentally, you want to stick with this default. The reason for this, and looking at the documentation in PixInsight, is talking about saying that we would use a white reference, or we might, from our perspective, we might use our local sun as a white reference, but actually that doesn't make sense from a deep sky object perspective. What makes more sense is using the average white reference from an average spiral galaxy, and therefore use that. So that's why that's selected by default, and that's why we should use that particular option. If you're using a one-shot color camera, you should always select ideal QE curve, quantum efficiency curve. You can also, if you're using a monochrome camera, you can specify or try and find a sensor that matches the one that you've got. I've got a ZWO cameras, and these kind of all seem to fit in that territory, but yeah, I'm using a one-shot color camera. I'm going to use ideal quantum efficiency curve. It's also worth noting that the RGB filters that we're going to be selecting down here have already got the quantum efficiency factored into those filters, so therefore that's why you would just specify this as an option. So for the filters, it kind of depends on what your setup is and whether you've got a UV IR cut filter or whether you've got sort of full spectrum, but the recommendation here is that actually you should be sticking to, you should be using UV-IR cut filters, because what tends to happen with these sensors, if we kind of look at some quickly, is if you just see what's happening here, when you get into the realms of infrared, basically the red, green and blue sensors are picking up the same data anyway, so there is no colour distinction there, and so therefore that's why you'd want an IR UV cut filter. There's another point here that's worth knowing and understanding, that if you're using a one-shot colour camera and actually you use, say, an Optolong L Pro filter, then what you can actually do is you can create your own filters from scratch, which is quite useful. You would do this by selecting Optolong L Pro filter and then coming down to your Sony color sensor B, select that filter as well, click on this icon down here to combine the selected filters, and you could call it Sony B L Pro or something like that. You need to specify that this is the blue filter channel, hit OK, and then you've created a new a new filter which is based on the Sony sensor, the blue filter, and the Optolong filter as well. And then that's what you would use when you're doing your color calibrations, and you can then select this in this list. Sorry, I created a blue one, which is why I couldn't find it. And you'll notice as well, these drop down boxes are filtered based on the color of the filter, so therefore you can't accidentally select the wrong filter from this list, which is nice. So you've got Sony B L Pro, which is one that I've just created there. I'm just going to leave these as defaults for now. So that's that. Yeah, again, it's worth knowing that you've got this. You can look through all of the filters. You can see all of the wavelength and transmission graphs as well, which is quite nice. In terms of filter management, what you can also do is, when you've set this up, if you want to keep it and not create these again in future, you can just export these the filter database to a file, and then you can re-import it at a later point. Say you install PixInsight somewhere else, for example. The other thing that we need to do is catalog searches, just making sure that yes, we're using that particular catalog. So where we imported the database files earlier on to Gaia DR3 SP, then yeah, we're selecting the right one there. And also for this background neutralization, same as photometric color calibration, you will want to set an area that you know is the background. Select that. You can then click on region of interest from preview, select that preview, and then you're good to go. And then it's the same with any other process, that you would just drag these onto the image to perform the color calibration. So rather than going out to the internet to get the star database, or the database of star information to plate solve, to get the information, the colour of the stars, etc. for colour calibration, it doesn't need to do that because you've got the database locally. Yep, creates you a nice graph showing that most of the colours are roughly in line with that linear representation there, which is good. You'll see if you do things like not having the IR cut filter in there, you'll see that things do drift off, both for the blue and the red, or the red-green and the blue-green channels. So, yep, that's the process, nice and easy. I think the only thing really with this whole process is just making sure that you're selecting the correct filters for your particular scenario. I haven't actually done that in this particular case because I shot this with an Optolong filter. I didn't want to go through creating all of these filters just for this video. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. Fundamentally, everybody should be using Spectrophotometric color calibration now, providing that 400% increase in precision over photometric color calibration, and it's obviously a lot better than just doing it manually using the standard color calibration feature. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic advancement in this tool set. Providing all of this free of charge as well once you've bought PixInsight is a fantastic benefit as well. So I hope you found this useful. Please feel free to leave any comments in the comments section about what you think about this, and I'll leave it at that. So thank you very much for watching, and clear skies.